Okay, we're ready to go.
Welcome to Neighborhood District 2. We know everybody's either out voting, hopefully you all voted, or getting ready for school starts tomorrow. So we're really grateful for those of you who have showed up tonight, either in person or online. So appreciate that. Wanted to remind everyone that the microphones in the ceilings do work. If anybody in the audience is having a hard time hearing, let us know. We can bring around handheld microphones. We also want to recognize Becky Boggin, Catrice McKay, John Butterson is here, Chris Lizen. I'm saying your name wrong, Chris.
Linzinger. It's a humdinger.
From the fire department, and did I miss anyone else from the city?
The whole
There's
row.
a lot.
Winterton.
Gary Winterton.
Doug Robbins, Foster
Doug
with
Robbins.
Bobby, Jen Atherton.
Yeah.
Atherton. We have Aaron Ardmore.
I saw Aaron sneak in, but I didn't notice if he sat down.
Riley's here too.
Riley's
Jenna.
Okay, sorry, I tried to write them down but I was also going over other things with people, so I apologize for those I missed. Thank you, Hannah. Kevin Cook, who is one of our newer board members and also our vice chair, is going to conduct the rest of the meeting. And so I'm going to turn the time over to him.
Thank you. We'll just jump right into department topics. First off, we'll have a police update where Rachel will be giving us a statement. We'll be helping us about the motorcycles.
Okay, so if everyone can hear me okay, we reached out to the police department. They apologized that they weren't able to come to the meeting tonight. But you have a neighborhood district officer over your area, and for District 2 is Officer Kawai, and I can never figure out how to pronounce his last name. Is it Cow? Cow. Okay, so he is also a motorcycle rider. So he will give you both sides. So he said speeding, there's already extra patrols in your area. But he did say to remember that motorcycles sound a lot faster than they're actually going, and that their traffic team has been up there multiple times and they're aware of the problem. When we asked him about the noise, he says there are stock exhausts that are very loud. There's also people that will change out their exhaust to be louder, and it's hard for them to tell the difference between them without getting a closer look at stock and modified. And he said, according to Utah state law, a person is only required to have a muffler, not like real specifications on what kind and stuff like that. And he said, unfortunately, most motorcycles are inherently.
Yes.
He did say if there's an issue that requires immediate response, please call their non-emergency number. That's always hard because by the time you get someone out there, they're long gone. And so usually we say if you can see a pattern at the same time, the same day, that's good information to give to the police. So then that way they can be there when the person comes by and they can check. But he also wanted to know more information from the community. So those that are having the problems, that are having the concerns, what can you tell me that I can then pass along to the police department to help them with patrols and all of that? Yeah.
I will just tell you, because my house backs up to the renamed Olympic Boulevard Road, which goes from 300 South over to Center Street, Sundays, all day long, Sundays. They go up the street, they go down Slate Canyon, and then they take State Street up to 9th East, and then they just do this big loop. And so once they get going, they'll go quite frequently. It's just a continual loop of motorcycle activity. And it's really living on that street. You know, we went from having an orchard behind our house to a street. behind our house. It's really, especially on Sunday, not pleasant. We'll just put it that way. That's, you know, the day you're trying to have family get-togethers and things like that, and you just hear motorcycles racing behind your street or behind your house all day. So obviously not in the winter, but
Okay, are there any other comments? Yes.
I live on the corner of 820 North and 1200 East in Provo. And there's a stop sign as you come east. In fact, it's a four-way stop. But the bikes will do, and the bullet bikes will go very fast. They enjoy taking off from that stop sign and just up the hill. So that's a very common problem. I've lived there for 48 years. So, and of course, like everyone else, I've seen the traffic get a lot worse. And of course, it's a lot worse now with the Wasatch penitentiary up there.
Okay, any other comments, concerns that I can pass along to the police department?
Be nice to cyclists and watch out for motorists always.
Yes.
is it, Rachel, is it true that we have less police officers and parking enforcement available on Sundays?
I don't know. Mayor, do you know?
I don't think that's true. I think parking enforcement, parking's under, where's Bill? I thought I saw Bill there. Parking enforcement is development services and
And I know they have people on Sunday,
They do.
overnight, all the time for parking, but I'm not sure about police patrols.
that's the same amount of police 24/7
Okay,
patrolling the streets. There's never a hold back or cut back just because of a nice calm Sunday. There's no such thing as a calm Sunday, by the way, in Provo.
thank you. We do want to recognize our mayor, Michelle Capusi, who is here tonight as well. Appreciate that.
Okay, so I just kind of to summarize on this issue, because I looked into it a little bit as well, it seems like if they are not speeding and they're complying with the muffler laws, there really isn't much to be done with this. They're driving on city streets and it's unpleasant, but is that?
That's how I understood it, but I'm not super familiar, and that's why I wanted information from the community to bring back to the police. Okay.
I'll just say the architecture of BYU, the new dorms there, doesn't help being 5 stories high. And it goes all the way up the hill, starting like at 5 in the morning, so we can hear it in our bedroom in the morning, the bullet bike speed through, if we have our window open and all. So I think part of it's architecture, so I think we should propose potentially knocking those down. Okay with that, that might actually dissipate the noise a little bit on a horizontal level, but I think part of it's just the fact it's a giant noise tunnel now.
Yeah. And I think that's true for the Olympic Road also, because it's got walls on both sides. So I think it just kind of bounces off those walls and amplifies, so. I know they did do a speed study. Have they gotten back to you on the results of that yet?
On which road? It's on Olympic?
Yeah.
I don't think I've received that yet, but I'll check with Vern.
Okay. So I think Vern turned it over to the police department to do, so yeah.
Oh, okay.
It might not have been a speed study then, as much as just them moving the speed trailer there as a different kind of part of the traffic section of police.
So that one wouldn't track the
We can
speed.
follow up though and see if,
Yeah.
I mean, they still have the data, but as far as an official traffic study by Vern, if the police just put it out there, then they'll have the data, but I don't know if it was like recorded
Yeah.
by traffic, but we can check.
Anyone else?
Oh, yeah.
Say, so there was a bill in the legislature that would require, because a muffler can't have a cutout or it can't be altered at all. But there was a bill in the legislature that didn't pass by 3 votes that said that when they do the emissions inspection, they have to check for that. But you could contact your state representatives and say, please vote for this bill. I mean,
If I can add, there was an interesting forum at BYU talking about noise and the effect on emotions and on mental clarity. Recently, great study on sound. And I would love to see that go to the state legislature and applying in this specific area. And then a second comment, since since BYU has bought the Y, and with the addition of the Wasatch School there, the traffic on 820 has, I don't know, we have a couple of hundred extra cars a day, I would say, especially during the season. And that's all being pushed into 820, whereas originally the plan was to have Seven Peaks Boulevard go up. And I am, for one, waiting for that Seven Peaks to be continued through to help mitigate the pressure on 820 North, which has a tremendous amount of pressure. Not just the school, but with the Y Trail, that's a main access to the Y Trail. It's a big problem.
Awesome. Thank you very much, everyone.
Anything else on topic? Next department topic, we'll have emergency manager Chris Winsinger and deputy fire marshal Jeannie Ashton.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Blinzinger, and I'm here with Jeannie. Talking to you today about evacuation plans, evacuation planning, evacuations in the city. I heard that was something that you folks were interested in. And that evacuation occurs when there's something that is creating a life safety issue. It's a protective action for evacuation from a threat. When we don't have an identified threat, we don't know who we're evacuating or which direction to send you. Here in Provo, we can go north, south, or west. Can't really go east. There's a big mountain in the way. But the best way to stay informed is our emergency notification system. That's our Everbridge emergency notification. There's a QR code back there on the card, or I can give you one of these cards with the website. This is where you register for emergency notifications. That's the only thing that this is used for, is emergency notification. We want everyone in the city to be registered with our emergency notification system. Another thing that I talked to the police department today, they have officers assigned to each neighborhood. And when they do evacuations, they have arteries. They want to direct people to the arteries in the direction that they need to go. I-15 is a good travel corridor. And the intent is for the officers to help move that traffic efficiently to those large volume roadways to get people out of the way and move. Last thing I want to say is it's important for the Be Ready Utah campaign to get a kit, make a plan, and be informed. Making a plan, do you have somewhere to go? If you had to evacuate, do you have a landing place? Do you have somewhere to go, a friend, a family member, a location, summer home? I don't know. But get a kit and make a plan and be informed. Know the threats where you live, know the hazards where you live, and be informed by getting registered for the emergency notification system.
Thank you. Okay, ready for my slide, Rachel?
Okay.
Bring it up.
Those will be available at the back.
Yes, and there's a big card with the QR code on it, on the easel.
Okay, thanks, Chris. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the new fire restrictions that went in place on August 1st. We've had a lot of questions about it because the state signed this order as of midnight on August 1st, and we put a lot of stuff out on social media, but there's been a lot of questions. Where does it apply? What applies? And where can you get more info for it? So this website, utahfireinfo.gov, is a great resource. They post a lot of stuff about wildfire safety, wildfire prevention. And when the state goes to a level 2 fire restrictions, we adopt the same fire restrictions in our city, and that applies to all our city parks. So that's really what the message we want to get out is the rules that the state is following now, we're following in our city parks. So a lot of our city parks up Provo Canyon, particularly Canyon Glen and South Fork, they have established fire pits that you could use. So with that fire restriction, the biggest thing that confuses people is that means that even in established fire pits, in an improved park, you cannot have a fire. So the biggest bullet point of this graphic up here, there's no open fires of any kind, and that includes charcoal briquettes. So even the established things they have up there for using charcoal to cook, they don't want anything that has an open flame. Basically, the only thing you can have is like a Camp Chef stove that has a windshield around it that will allow you to keep that flame contained to that stove. So they don't want wood burning stoves, tent stoves, barbecues, anything like that. Everything else on this is pretty much kind of common sense. They don't want you smoking outside. You have to smoke indoors that are in an established area. There's absolutely no fireworks, which those are banned anyway right now, but they don't want people using exploding targets or tracer ammunition as well. And really the no cutting, grinding, or welding near dry grass, that's kind of a no-brainer that should be applied year round, not just during the level 2 fire restrictions. And lastly, a lot of people go and recreate or use equipment that has a small combustion engine. So you need to make sure if you have motorcycles, chainsaws, anything like that, that they have a spark arrestor in them so that that engine can potentially spark. So if you're working around dry grass, which it is not a good time to do that, I would wait until it rains. Just make sure that any equipment, if you're cutting some trees in your yard, make sure that your chainsaw has a working spark arrestor in the exhaust, and that will help decrease that fire risk. Does anyone have any questions about the level 2 fire restrictions?
Can you just maybe briefly say what we can do for our homes to reduce fire?
That's actually what I'm going to talk about next, if you want to go to the next slide. So like Chris was talking about the Be Ready Utah, this program is through the International Association of Fire Chiefs. It's called Ready, Set, Go. It's the exact same type of thing. It is creating a plan. So preparing your home and creating a plan to know when you need to go if you are told you need to go. So this is just kind of a brief synopsis of the program. There's a lot of information on their website, and I will get Rachel a link to the RSG website so you can get more information. So the first is to be ready. You contact us. We can come do assessments on your home to see if you need to create fenceable space around your home. That's something that I do every year if homeowners reach out, and I will leave some of my business cards on the back table so you can contact me directly. So we'll come and take a look at your house and see what needs to be done. That's the getting ready part. The getting set part is making a go kit and getting in all the stuff that's listed here, plus they have more on their website. You get that stuff ready to go. So that if there is a go time, if you do sign up, we want you to sign up for the emergency alerts. If you get an alert that says you're in an area that's being impacted by this event and you need to go, you've already got the go part figured out. And that includes where are you going to go? Who are you going to go stay with? If you have large animals, if you have a horse or, cattle or anything like that on your property, chickens, they may want to figure out a way to get those away as well. So really that's kind of what we want to see people do. And this is a great thing to do year round, not just during wildfire season, but it can apply to flooding and earthquakes as well. So any questions about that program? And I will send out a link to this so that when you get the email synopsis for tonight, you'll be able to go to their website and get more information on that. So, yes.
Level 2 status, is that indefinite or is that until we're
No.
out of this term?
It's usually what happens is it goes for a point in time when the weather and conditions change such that it's safer for those to be lifted, and then the governor will usually announce that those are going to be lifted. So we just kind of follow what they do, and once it's lifted everywhere else in the state, then we'll go ahead and lift them within our city as well. So good question. Any other questions? Yes.
For the thing about off-road vehicles, like on the next, if you go to the previous slide.
Oh yeah, it's having the spark arresters.
Are those, I'm guessing, common?
Yeah, usually if you buy a new motorcycle, anything like that, chainsaws, it should come with one. And if you don't know if it has one, it might be worth just taking it into a shop and making sure that it's there and that it's working. So
the reason why I asked is we recently had like a small little fire breakout close to where I live, just right up by Buckley's Draw. And I just have personally been concerned because there's a lot of off-roading activity that kind of takes place around the Bonneville Shoreline Trail. Because there's an access road.
Yeah.
Like a lot. And as conditions have become really dry and there's a lot of that dead grass. And it's just
So people shouldn't be up there in the first place. There's signage up there for that, but that's a whole nother issue to delve into. But hopefully the equipment that they're using is, it should, if they bought it recently, should already have that in place. Yeah. Yes.
It's an antique. I have a son that just got some antique.
That's something.
They don't have those.
And I don't know because I don't know what kind of engine it has. That's something he would have to take it to a shop and make sure that one of those is installed in it and will work with his bike and not to ruin the engine. So that would be something he would have to figure out. So it's a good question though. Any other questions? Okay, I think we have, oh,
Can you just mention like something along the lines of like how our own yards and weed abatement and is important in
yes,
preventing?
I have a good slide for that.
Thank
My
you.
next slide actually
Oh,
talks
sorry.
about that. No, this is good because you're like leading into the next thing I'm talking about. It's perfect. So I don't know if you want to take a picture of this because I could spend hours talking about this and the nuances of all the little things that are on this graph, on this image. But this in a nutshell is how to create defensible space around your home, like within the first 30 feet of your home, and then the next 30 to 100 feet, the next 70 feet. Those are the things you want to do to look for. And really what we're trying to do is keep most home ignitions from wildfires are not caused because this flaming wall of flames comes in through a neighborhood. What happens is embers can travel up to 5 miles if the wind is strong enough. And so we got a fire like we had on Timpanogos several years ago, and it starts blowing right into our city. Those embers could travel from up on the face of Timp, clear down into southeast Provo and land in your gutter that's full of leaf litter, and then it starts your house on fire. And the problem with that is once we get one house on fire, then we have 3 houses on fire, and the wind can drive those fires just like happened in California earlier this year. And then we have depleted our resources in our city, county, then we're getting state resources, and it can just escalate from there. So really it's up to every single person, and the more people we get to do this adjacent to neighbors that have done it, the safer your neighborhood is. So I would suggest if you are interested, I have a presentation for the neighborhoods that are in our urban interface, the Northeast Hills and the Southeast area. Please contact me. I would love to come and talk to your neighborhood group about what they can do to make their homes safer and what actions they can take to decrease their fire risk around their house. And there's a lot of things we can talk about in terms of making your actual home safer, like if you have screening in your attic vents and things like that, in addition to the landscaping around your house to make it safer. So. And I think we just have, so there was a question about if you have fire concerns, like you have a property that's next to your house that's full of weeds, stuff like that. If you will just send an email to this email address, that I can access that. And then I just give me your contact information, the address you're talking about, and then we will take a look at that and then get back with you and kind of tell you the best way to proceed with that. So, and then I will leave some of my cards on the back table if you're interested in a home assessment or you have questions about putting together a neighborhood meeting to talk about wildland urban interface and how to decrease risk around your house. I'm more than happy to set those up. So any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Very much. We'll move on to the planning items. One planning item, we'll have a presentation by Amber Elliott, liaison. Sorry, so bad at names. Are you here? Perfect. We'll turn the time over to you for your presentation.
We're gonna have somebody talk about.
Rachel, you talked about a general introduction about ADU in the city, the ordinances.
Right, yeah, let's
Do that first.
So just to kind of say, Erin Ardmore, is this ADU, is this still in the review process?
Yes.
Okay, so, and a lot of people are getting this ADU confused with a different ADU request that's going to the planning commission tomorrow.
There's one on Bannock Drive that's going to Plan Commission tomorrow.
Right,
So that's Indian Hills.
question that I kept getting texted and emailed was just in general, where do ADU ordinances stand in Provo right now? West of I-15 versus east of I-15?
Sure, yeah, I
Heard
did.
that in a nutshell.
Aaron,
You want you.
Leah?
Please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Malia, so I'm a policy analyst in the council office and kind of helped with a lot with the ADU policy over the last couple of years. So Erin is the planning expert, but the council kind of spearheaded the ADU efforts the past couple of years. So I'll go over this. ADUs are only allowed in residential zones, first of all, base layer, but then there's some restrictions there. So west of I-15 in all residential zones, ADUs are allowed kind of by right a land use thing, except for in one zone in the new development SDP 5, which is the Broadview Shores Ivory Homes development. So everywhere west of I-15, ADUs are allowed. They don't have to get special permission or permits through the city, besides Broadview Shores. You come onto the east side of I-15, there are certain zones that it is allowed, and then there's also, it's a little clunky, but if you pull up chapter 1430 in our city code, there is an actual map that has areas of the city that have been added to the city code for ADU allowance, and even individual little parcels and properties like we're talking about tonight that have been allowed for ADU allowance. There are also about 30 properties about that have grandfathered in special use permits, and those property owners are allowed to have ADUs east of I-15, but that does not run with the land. And so when those property owners move or sell, those ADUs will go away. So as far as ADU code, how you can get an ADU, so you can be added to the city code either by your whole zone. So someone could apply to say, I want this new zone or this new area to be allowed to have ADUs. That is one way, or the way that this applicant that we're going to talk about tonight, that map, that kind of map that has different parcels or areas of the city of properties that are allowed to have ADUs. Someone can apply and say, I would like to change to be added to that map to have an ADU. And in that case, the ADU does run with the land. It's a land use decision that goes before the council. So even if that property owner moves, the ADU is still allowed on that property. So I think that's the most basic overview of ADUs.
And so this type of application we're addressing tonight is not a zoning change. It's a land use permit for a
It's
specific
zoning
piece of
change
property.
in as much that they are allowed to, within their zone, allowed to have an ADU. But it's not changing the zone of the property. It's just allowing another use, a land use onto that property, but it will be in city code. So you would have to do a city code amendment to take it. Yeah.
So to have an ADU, does the owner have to live on the?
Yes, it has to be. So by definition, an ADU means owner occupied. The owner is not there living, then it's just a duplex.
May or may not be allowed to.
Yeah, depending on the zoning, you can have a duplex, but most of the time it is not allowed in a residential zone, especially with these properties that we're looking for ADUs.
The apartment in the basement is considered an ADU.
Yes.
And this is probably a little off topic, but worth mentioning in our neighborhood where we're having investors come in, put their kids in the homes, single students, and then they're putting their student's name on as an owner. So they're getting around those laws.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what
we did just amend the code last year or beginning of this year. I mind is fuzzy on when we did that. But we changed it so the only way someone can have an ADU is everybody who is on the title has to live in the home. Otherwise, it is not counted by Provo City definition to be owner occupied. So we did just change that. So now that workaround happens. It might still be happening, and if it is, please report it to city code enforcement so we can look into it.
Who do we report to?
Yeah, so you can call 311 and they can direct you, or code enforcement, our code enforcement team. So if you call 311 and ask for them, I don't have their specific numbers. But
852-6000.
there you go.
You can also report it on the new website, the city website.
Yeah, the
There's a
city
report
website has a great new.
concern, I think is what it's called, report of concern.
So just on the homepage, there should be a button to report a concern, or if you just in the search bar on that homepage, report a concern. It's the first thing that pops up and it's a really good.
Sometimes it's hard to know who's living there if they're telling the truth.
Yes, that is part of the issue.
Just so I got that, so east of I-15 is not allowed except for exceptions like we're going through tonight.
Yeah, there's-
How many exceptions exist east of?
There's
I-15?
listed zones and east of I-15.
Some zones do allow.
There's some
ADUs,
zones,
like
but not
I-
like R16, R18 do not. And then there is a map, like I said, it's a little funky, where there's areas of the city and people have applied as whole neighborhoods to kind of be allowed, or whole sections of neighborhoods to be allowed. So there's a map, section 1430 in the city code. You can see that. Sorry, and
Thank you.
Great. And just a reminder, this will go to the planning commission, which is a public hearing, and to the city council, which is also a public hearing. But this one we're hearing is not the one going to planning commission tomorrow. That's Indian Hills. This is Oak Hills.
Oh, hi, everybody. I've never done this before. I'm incredibly nervous, actually. My name's Amber Elison. You were close enough. It's a phonetical nightmare. So this is our project. This is our current house. We're living in Oak Hills right now. This is our hopeful shop / ADU that we're kind of dreaming about so far. So we've lived in Provo since 2005. I came up for school and just never left. I think that happened to a lot of us. These are our 4 children. We have kids at Timpview, Centennial, and Wasatch. And I've coached my kids' teams. I used to volunteer for the rooftop concert series. And I just tell you all of that to let you know that I love Provo. I really do. In fact, years ago, we were looking at, we lived in the Provost neighborhood. In fact, Angie was a neighbor and Catherine was a neighbor. You probably don't remember me, but it's good to see you. I do. And so when we grew out of that Provost house, it kind of broke our hearts to think, if we want, large land with large enough space for, this is my husband, Steve, to have a shop on, we're probably going to need to leave Provo. And so we bought a lot in Pleasant Grove, had plans for that, and just thought when the time is right that we would do that. But it really was this sad thought, because we really do. We love living in Provo. So years ago, I was talking to a neighbor, and this was these videos were to kind of orient you to our plot, but the next slide can do that too. I was talking to a neighbor and we loved Oak Hills, and I said, if you have anything in your neighborhood that's going up for sale, call me. And she said, if you're serious, you need to come look at a house. And it was on a ½ acre of flat land, which is what we were hoping for. And we were not planning on moving, but we pulled the trigger and we have been there ever since. And we really do love it. We love Oak Hills. Mitzi is a neighbor. And I don't know if any of you have spent time up there. It looks like a few of you are residents, and it is magical. We really do love it. So this is kind of what we have come up with. We started out wanting to have a shop for my husband. He works at Aptive, which is a company that has started in Provo. He started building that right here in downtown. We're now in the Riverwoods. I work there as well. I run our female sales rep organization. And Steve's a finance guy, but he is a craftsman at heart. So he knew that he wanted a shop. So we met with a contractor and we kind of started brainstorming this. And it was right around the time that the ADU vote was coming out, because this is relatively new, if I'm remembering right. So when we heard that ADUs might be allowed, and we were under the impression at the time, knowing not enough, that that we were probably a go. So we thought, the previous owners had to move because our house, you pull into the basement garage, main living is on the 2nd story, and all the bedrooms are on the 3rd. So the couple we bought our home from left because they couldn't manage all 3 levels. So our thought was eventually we will live here. So instead of just a shop, we thought, let's move the shop to the basement level and we will actually build a little 1-bedroom unit here. Now you can see our lot is very long. It's a ½ acre, but it's kind of long and thin. So this is where you pull in. This is our home right here. And we've got this nice 5-car carport. I don't know when it got there. I don't know if it's to code, and I've never checked. But it is a 5-car carport that my husband currently uses as a shop. And then there's a little green shed, and it's kind of buried in trees up here, but that little brown roof in the corner, that is that green shed. And we actually put in this big gravel pit that's right in front of that, just to the left, thinking that, the kids for now can dig in it, but maybe eventually that's where the shop goes. So we kind of in our heads had planned for that. So our thought is when we get old one day, we will live in here, and the child that wants to take care of us gets to take over the house. And this is where we'll park. And then we've also got an attached garage here. So completely off-street parking. This is a nice little neat cul-de-sac that we would, and it's not super wide. We would prefer not to have on-street parking You know, and we just simply won't need it because that driveway is so long, plus we've got the covered parking as it is. So along the way, we've talked to the neighbor to our south. She's got this, we've got an old fence that we share. We are actually gonna replace that for her. Once we get things going, we'll be planting trees along this north side to maintain some privacy for the neighbors to the north. And then there is a gully that cuts off right here. But there is this gully here, and you can see where our property line ends, but this kind of separates our neighbors to the east. So that is kind of what we're looking at. And I hope that is helpful information to kind of give everybody this. These are just general designs. I don't know if you guys want to really see all of these, but that was the north and south view. This is this is north and south. The last ones were east to west. And this is a little basic layout. It's just got a little kitchenette. This is a master bath. And then there's an upstairs loft that I hope to have as an art studio someday, because I do paint not well and not often. So I like to think if I have a designated space, I'll do more of that. And that's my husband's little dream shop in the basement, just really open. That gully would actually be a walkout. So the driveway would drive down. We've got a little K truck, one of those little Japanese trucks. And that is just enough room for him to get down here to load projects up and load them back out down that driveway. And that, yeah. Can I answer any questions? Great. Yes, please.
What is your barrier to using the 5-car park?
As a shop?
And he's using it as a shop.
Well, I can't live there, but he does use it as a shop right now.
But you could add a second story out of that.
No, currently it's pressurized wood beams and a tin roof. It's an open air carport. So it would involve, I mean, another ADU really to make it livable. So yeah, good question though.
Do you have any questions online, Rachel?
Say any.
Yes.
So I just have I'm trying to understand. So the ADU that you're proposing is in that corner, the back corner, and it would be 2 stories or like 3 with
So
like a basement?
it would be 3 total, including the basement.
Okay.
So the main floor, yeah, so this would be the main floor where you walk in. And then there's just half of the floor space. There's a loft in this on the second, or I guess technically the 3rd floor.
So the property kind of goes down like this?
Yeah, so from the back, it would be a walkout. From that basement level, it'd be a walkout because it dips into the gully. Yep, in fact, Mitzi's mother-in-law lives right behind us. She's got a basketball court. You can see that big concrete pad.
Okay.
So the end of that concrete pad, we had it surveyed. That's the property line. And so we would have another concrete pad so that we could get a little car down there.
I would say that we have built a shop and an art studio in the back of our property, and they're sheds. So they're not 4-season with everything you need in there. But they're 1 story. They don't affect the privacy of our neighbors in any way. And it seems to me that's a pretty high structure. If I were your neighbor, I would be a little uncomfortable that you're building such a high structure.
It's not taller than our current property, which is quite tall actually, because it's, pretty much 3 stories. And that for the ADU code citywide, from what I understand, and maybe Aaron can weigh in on this, your ADU cannot exceed the height of the existing property. Is that correct? So this one is it's 9-foot ceilings on the main, and then it's got I think it's 19 feet actually at the peak because it vaults, right? So the highest peak is 19 feet from the floor, not the basement level, from the floor ground level to the height.
Kind of the state of the art, though. It's definitely a state of the art, 9-foot ceilings and a nice high loft.
Yeah. And the living area is, and it's modeled after our property, actually. We've got a big great room, all wood paneling. The plan, it has the same thing, just to kind of match with the style of our current house.
But it's closer to the property line there. It's going to be the problem with the height, isn't it? I don't live up there, so what I'm just saying, and
I think it would depend on how your neighbors feel about how.
Yeah, so that's a good question, actually. So ADUs from initially when we heard they require 66% neighbor signatures for bordering neighbors, we received 4 out of 5 of those. And this one, we figure this is Betty, this is Betty. She is south of us. Her husband passed a few years ago. And we went to her first actually to talk to her about this because it would be 15 feet from her property line. Her house is here, and then this is actually a sport court on the other side of it. She's got a tall retaining wall, so the fence line actually covers up all the windows. So we can't see into her yard because the fence that we share kind of protects that. But she signed that form, and the concern actually came from the north. They've got plans to put a swimming pool. And so we talked about actually planting trees. We did just do you can't see it in this photo, but right along our fence line, we landscaped with just some low shrubs, and we're going to replace those with some kind of tall poplar that'll kind of offer a little bit more of a privacy screen.
And if you're thinking about the neighbor to the east of right that corner, so it's a gully, but then goes straight up a hill.
Yeah, all
So
of these
there
guys
is
behind
no-
us look down into
So
our yard.
there's
Actually.
no neighbor on that same level. It's up an entire level.
So what you're saying is this house would be lower than the surrounding houses on the east?
So Mitzi lives behind us and her mother-in-law, so Mitzi and Rob are diagonally to the right to us.
Okay.
And they kind of look down into all of our yards that are
Okay.
below us. Yeah, so it, like she said, it dips down and then kind of slopes up. Yeah.
Any other questions?
I'll just share. We're the neighbors to the north. Amber is an awesome neighbor. I love being your neighbors. Ash and I we're the only ones that didn't sign off. Mainly for 2 reasons, and not even that we get to sign off. Like the process is different than you thought, different than we thought. My 2 biggest concerns, we've shared this with Amber and Steve, are number one, like one of the reasons we moved to the neighborhood we did is because it's single family zone. And there's not high density. And so I know that there's a format for exceptions, but to me, it feels like exceptions open the door to just that being the norm. Exceptions feel weird to me, actually.
Yeah.
I think it changes the culture of the neighborhood. So it's hard to go against someone else's wishes, but our wish is firmly to have it still be a single family neighborhood where there's not ADUs. And then the second is privacy, and we've talked about some ways that we could accomplish that maybe through trees, but still there's that concern over, this is zoned as single family, so why are we doing exceptions and that kind of thing, so.
Yeah, and that I think is a really important thing to address, and I didn't mention it actually. We have no intent. I don't want to rent my property. I don't need to rent my property. I understand that if one of our children someday, and the house is going into a trust, actually, we're working on that right now. And if the house someday gets sold, it might make a great rental property for somebody. But it really is not going to be a short-term or long-term rental property. It really will be guest house. We host people quite a bit in our basement, which is also my children's playroom. So it's not a super comfy spot for our guests. And so it will be, our place to live someday. And I share the same concern, actually. I don't want Oak Hills to become, student occupied. I don't want a ton of on-street parking. I don't want noises at night. I want the piece that we moved up there for. So I share that concern. And there's no guarantee that we keep the house forever, right? And that somebody doesn't come
That's
in
the hard thing, right? Is just that it opens that door,
Yeah.
right? And other neighbors may want that, and who's to say that they don't get granted an exemption and choose a different path, and so
I think
that's the worry.
I think what could be helpful as well, and maybe this is something that the council considers down the road, is considering the size of the property itself. And from what I understand, if you want to rent your house, you need a permit, I'm assuming, right? If you want to make it a rental property, short or long term. But I feel like with this specifically, because our lot is so deep, because it really is, and our house takes up a tiny footprint. I don't think it compromises like the feel or the density of the neighborhood. Whereas if you have a smaller lot, absolutely, it starts to feel crowded. And like I grew up in California, that is not uncommon to see a lot of ADUs on tiny lots. So I share that concern, and I wonder if having a square footage lot requirement would be helpful for that. I know there's not a lot of large parcels in East Provo, which is why we kind of feel like we won the lottery a little bit, honestly. So.
It's not my neighborhood, but I'm just wondering, so it sounds like, it looks like you've got a kitchen in there and everything, like it's long term, it's not just.
I plan to die in that guest house if it gets built, yes.
It's not just a guest staying for the weekend or a week, it's gonna be long term.
Like I mean, I can tell you no, and you can choose to believe me or not. But no, I have a father fighting prostate cancer. My mother-in-law lives down the road. Her house is in a trust that's gonna be sold. This will be a landing pad for anybody in our lives that we feel might need a landing pad. And I want my kids nearby. So hopefully as they transition into adulthood and need a place to be, they can be there. But no, I'm building it. In fact, I have pink tile in that bathroom chosen right now because I want a pink tile shower when I'm a little old lady and my grandkids come to visit. So.
And if anyone has any other questions or concerns, they can contact Dustin Wright, city planner. Email or call. Have any issues with
Thank you.
Oh, so this isn't a question. Are you allowed to comment if you just think it's a good plan? Because I just think it's a good plan.
If you would like to.
I would like to. I just like to go on the record. I think it's a good plan. I live in a neighborhood that has a lot of ADUs and it hasn't compromised the single family character of it at all, actually. It's helped the ward retain young families, and it's actually been a huge boon to my neighborhood.
Thank you.
I think you're doing it. I think it was a brilliant plan.
Thanks. Thanks for everybody's time.
Thank you, Amber.
We just have a few additional topics. First one will be recreations, arts and parks tax presentation by Gary Winterton. Followed by a matching grant and community cleanup by Catherine. Then we'll have Rachel go over community updates.
I'm Gary Winterton, and I have the opportunity to talk about the RAP tax coming for the election. We do this, we instigated it in Provo 10 years ago, and when it's set up, we need to do it for 10 years. So every 10 years, we have the opportunity to renew that tax. We'll talk a little bit about what we've done with it. We have two Parks and Rec people here to help us with that. Challenge with this is they need this RAP tax. I can say this, they can't, because they can't advocate for it as employees. I am not a city employee, and it is really one of the best things that we have in our city to help support our parks, our arts, and our recreation areas. And so they'll give you an idea of what they have actually done with the RAP tax money over the 10 years. They're going to cut it short because what they've done in 10 years is more than fantastic. This has been seed money for our community to build many, many things and to improve our parks so much. I'll let them talk about that for a minute, and then I'll just take a minute at the end. But they'll tell you what they've done so that you can see how important this is to our city.
Thank you, Gary, and thanks for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. Want to give you a brief rundown of kind of how we've utilized RAP in the past and the opportunities that you have as taxpayers to vote on this coming up this fall. Starting out, what is the Recreation, Arts and Parks tax? It's a local option sales tax. The state legislature allows counties and local governments to assess to the residents and visitors of the community to go towards this specific use. This is kind of a unique sales tax where it has a 10-year sunset period. How cool is that if all taxes were this way? But after 10 years, it has to be renewed or it discontinues. And so the voters always get a chance to weigh in on how things are going in their own community.
If this wasn't renewed this year, in 10 years, would you apply again?
It's every 10 years, it has to be either renewed or discontinues. So it's a 0.1%. So out of every $10 that's spent in Provo, 1 penny goes towards this. It's a little bit different as a sales tax. It's assessed to residents of Provo and anyone that's visiting Provo or spending money in Provo. So that's another way in which visitors to Provo are actually contributing to recreation, arts, and parks in town. And again, it's important to realize this is not the renewal. It's a renewal of an existing tax, sales tax. This is not an effort to generate new or a different form of taxation. It's not an increase. It's an existing tax. You have the opportunity as voters to vote on this. So we come to the 10-year period. This is a look back past how many years you think? It's not an all-inclusive list, but it does show some of the local funds that were dedicated to some of the parks and recreation projects here in town. And what we've been able to do is utilize these funds to leverage outside grant funds or funds from outside the city in different sources. So
Clarify, when you say local funds, is that from the tax?
yes, this is RAP tax and development impact fees and other city sources of funds.
Okay, and the outside funds are?
These come from state and federal sources, even private sources, county.
Do you have a sense of what percentage of the local funds column comes from the RAP tax? Like, is it a third, just roughly?
It's averaged over 10 years, about 1.5 million a year in contributions over the last 10
to parks.
And so we've been able to
In total, we've raised 15 million. In total, we've raised 15 million roughly from it over the last decade.
Probably close. Yeah. $50 million of actual cost benefit to the to our system. So that's kind of what we do uniquely here is we take those seed dollars and then we really leverage those as much as we possibly can with outside funding and squeeze every bit of value we can out of these precious tax dollars that we pay in.
There's a hand over there.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Are any of those funds earmarked when you?
These funds, the restrictions on these funds is that they can be used for recreation, arts, and parks system-wide. So within the
Most of us here are concerned about Slate Canyon.
Yep. So within this city boundaries, we can utilize those. And what we do, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, is every year we prepare a plan based on community feedback, surveys, and our Parks and Recreation Master Plan. We take that plan and then renew our capital improvement plan for the next year and then project out 4 more years. So it's a 5-year CIP plan. And then that's discussed and decided by the city council. And that becomes our game plan for the future.
Is Slate Canyon in there somewhere?
So to answer that question, Slate Canyon would definitely be one that we would consider and get into the CIP plan for funding. And that's how that's decided.
There have been some past improvements there with RAP tax. I didn't highlight them in this slideshow, but there were some improvements in the past there.
I'll turn a little time over to John. I want to recognize John as our project manager, and then Riley Snelson in the back there, sitting there quietly. These two are amazing. These two are the best project managers I've ever worked with. They're able to really work these projects out efficiently and are able to get so much more out of the available dollars than we normally would if we just contracted out everything. So I'll turn the time over to John.
So I had a really cool graphic prepared, but it's not working tonight.
I think if I click on it,
Let's try
it
you
would work.
clicking.
So if you can tell me which area you want me to click on.
Just go forward. It should zoom in if you go forward. Yeah, it's not doing the cool thing. Anyway, we'll highlight the cool projects in District 2 up front. Starting, are you pressing N? I'm pressing?
I'm pressing nothing.
Don't press. There, nope, it jumped. It should start here. Okay, we're gonna start here. Spring Creek. The lion's share of Spring Creek development was paid by CDBG, so community development block grant funds, as well as development impact fees. RAP tax came and helped bring this project across the finish line. So it wasn't fully funded by RAP tax, but partially funded to deliver a great community asset. Okay, it's gonna do this every time. It's supposed to zoom in on each one of these.
Sunshades music and galleries and those won't be back up until next year for the warranty return.
Yeah, they've been sent into the manufacturer for warranty.
So they won't be put up
They
until
won't be
winter.
back. I don't think they'll be back this season. If they do come back, we'll put them up, but I don't think the manufacturer will turn around that fast. So Rock Canyon Trailhead, just recently completed last season, where county stepped up for about 2/3 of the funding for this project. State of Utah came in with another $750,000, and then Rock Canyon Preservation Alliance also fundraised for this $100,000, and then RAP tax brought this project across the finish line to what you see today. We kind of have a limited time tonight. I want to make sure that we turn time back to Gary. So I'm highlighting District 2 projects. Rock Canyon Park, these are some of the conditions that we started with a playground that couldn't get parts anymore and had to be boarded up for a period of time. Restrooms that were designed, well, they were installed about 45 years ago, and parking and trail surfaces that needed replaced.
Question on that part.
This is going.
What about shade sales for that park?
They
How do
were
we
not
get-
part
how
of
do we
the
advocate
design,
for that?
but they could be installed. But they weren't part of the.
How do we go about advocating for that with your office, your project planning? But if you didn't
Well,
want to do the grant, couldn't it be
It
funded
would
with
go
the
in the
RAP
queue.
tax?
It would go in the queue and be listed and they'll be reviewed annually with
How do we get it in the queue?
just did. Actually, no, it's in the queue. It's actually in the queue already. But by telling us, we record this and make sure it's added. It's not being added now, it's already been added because it was mentioned earlier, but it's in the queue.
If residents are willing to contribute, like this is our neighborhood park. So if residents are able to contribute in some sense to shades, for example, does that push priority up? Like, is there a way to get a line item of how much exactly that would cost? And if residents are able to fundraise a certain amount for it?
Every project has its own unique funding plan.
Okay.
So if there is outside funding, oftentimes that will accelerate the development or the replacement of. So I would say yes, we've done that before, where sometimes some outside funding becomes available, and that accelerates the timeline project.
So that I'm just gonna say with that funding, if she wanted to donate and put a specific line item, this is only for the shades for Rock Canyon Park, we could put it in the Provo Foundation.
Oh, I see.
And then you can hold it, name it, whatever you want, and it doesn't just go into the Parks and Rec park and disperse it specific to what you want.
And there's also might be some tax advantages to doing that.
And then Tana's right too, there are community grants that match donations and volunteer hours that we can apply, but the difficulty I've had with this one is it crosses, there's District 2 and there's District 3. And we haven't been able to combine getting grants for both of those and combining them to make this work. We're not technically in that district. Interesting. Yeah.
And I can get a quote for what shade structures would look here and get that back to Rachel to get back to you on, because it's oftentimes not as cheap as you'd think or what I would like, because there's material costs and install costs that typically would put this over $100,000. I'm just throwing out, I'm not saying it is 100,000. I'm just saying it would be over $100,000 to shade the entire 3 play nodes up there. But as part of the improvement seen from RAP tax, there was the new playgrounds, which we've highlighted, new year-round restroom facilities, and then the walking trail and the bowl parking areas were all resurfaced and now much more usable. And I'm gonna have to really burn through this these days. I got a little prepared. Limited play center. All right. Some more trails, College Connector, Independence Avenue, Mazer and Carterville Parks, trails were resurfaced. Provo River Trail, substantial widening, resurfacing, several miles of trail. Great lighting along the trail have been added, under crossings improved. There's more on the horizon there along Columbia Lane and State Street. The Lakewood Playground replacement. Rotary Park courts, restroom, and playground replacements occurred. And the addition of 8 pickleball courts. The show at Fort Utah, which gives our youth a Major League sports field experience. Riverview Park, these are some of the conditions that that park was faced with as well. That were improved with new playground, new pickleball, tennis court facilities, and the trail being resurfaced there. And this was one of those projects that was entirely funded by RAP tax to bring that forward. Quail Orchard was, again, a small amount, brought this project across the finish line, largely funded by impact fees. West Park renewal, this was entirely funded by RAP tax and revitalized the neighborhood in West Provo. Provo River Delta Gateway Park, this was largely funded by outside funds from the Delta Restoration Group, as well as State of Utah Outdoor Recreation Fund, and a small portion, around $15,000, brought this project across the finish line from RAP tax funds. And then the Epic Sports Park, again, from all the costs, this was a very small part, came from RAP tax to bring this first phase across the finish line. It's a huge economic tourism opportunity that's here in West Provo. And then with that, I'm going to turn it back.
All right. Thanks, John. A good component of the RAP also involves contributions to local improvement. And major function here in the city is a city-owned Covey Center for the Arts, which is supported by RAP each year, as well as a community arts grant program. Here, and this is administered by the Provo Art Council, where local arts groups and performing arts groups can apply for a grant and be awarded a little bit of money to help their programs succeed. There's been some discussion about enhancing this a little bit in the next term as well. All right, just going forward, these are the 5 categories that we typically fund or plan to fund. One thing that's really important is when the council decided to put this on the ballot 10 years ago, we utilized a community survey of Provo residents at that time. And one thing that came through resoundingly in that survey was take care of what we have, take care of our existing facilities and make these needed upgrades that have been waiting decades. So that's what we've really been trying to do with these funds, and really try to stretch those dollars as far as we can. So we'd continue a lot of that with these existing facility upgrades, moving arts maybe up a notch as well as far as priority, because we've gotten so far on our trails and pathways and our trailheads, utilizing all of these state and federal funds that are available for us. The next phase of that will be the center section of the Provo River Trail through the Moon River area, over the crossings of Columbia Lane and State Street.
I have just barely found the entrance to the bike trail on the River Drive, and I had to reverse engineer it. I'm very excited.
They're really needed, aren't they? They're very narrow. This will expand those so they're nice and comfortable, 12, even 14-foot wide pathway lengths or widths through those areas, with much more gradual and safe entryways into those tunnels. It's going to be a game changer. But we've got, I think it's $5 million of federal money coming through the state to do that project. That's our next trail project. And then long-term planning of projects that fit in that category. And then minor capital improvements of pavilions, restrooms that need to be renovated. That's another thing we heard, is make sure that our restrooms are well maintained, and then also renovated from time to time so that it don't become kind of a liability for the community, people that use those. All right, so like I said before, we utilize our Parks and Recreation Master Plan survey data as well as priorities that come from you that are suggested to us. We keep track of those and add those to the capital improvement plan and list of projects to be funded, as well as the mayor's office and the city council and their priorities. Put those all together every year in this capital improvement plan. Once that's adopted, that is our game plan. That is our map for the year. And we go and execute that plan. And we go out and try to find as many grant funding opportunities to extend and see how far we can get on those dollars. This is just a very short list of projects that are on that plan that have potential being funded if the RAP, of course, is renewed. All right, we'll turn some time over to Gary.
Thank you. They've given you information. I get to advocate. You guys, this is such an important tax for our people. When you consider 1 penny out of every $10 that is spent, it's minimal. But last year they got just under $2 million and they got $10 million worth of benefit because of the way they use the funds. And so if we don't have this as seed money, we have potential of losing that $8 million, and we need that to be able to maintain what we've got. It's not a regular budget to maintain some of these things. It's not in the regular budget. They don't have a capital improvement plan for these things, but they use the RAP tax for a lot of those capital improvements. And so in my mind, I'm going to give you this number now, 801. It's my number, 801-372-6633. If you have any questions about this, please give me a call. Yeah, there are concerns. Nobody likes taxes. And if that's what the situation is, I don't know where we go to avoid taxes. But this is such a very unique tax in that there are so many people that participate in it that are not even part of our community, that otherwise don't pay any taxes. This is a help to help keep our community. There's so many people that move to Provo for the parks. This is a lovely area and it's close by, and we need to keep that as an attraction for our city. If any of you have any questions about that, please call me. And I'm going to ask you also for a little help also. We need to get the word out, and I'm going to ask you to help you do that in your neighborhoods, that this tax is very important to our city. If you'll do that, I would appreciate it. And if any of you have any little bit of extra funds, we need to raise about $10,000 so that we can send out a flyer to explain it to people. Everybody thinks, oh, I hate taxes, I'm not voting for it. I have a mother-in-law like that. And I say, well, Mom, how are you going to drive on your road? You mean I got to pay taxes to have a road? Yes. And so what we do, I think what you need to do is recognize that this tax is a tax that will actually, it's a minimal tax, and it does so much good for our community because of the way it's used. Any questions, please? I can advocate, and I will advocate very strongly for this. They can give you information, but darn it, because they're employees, they're not allowed to actually advocate. So I would encourage you to give me a call, or the mayor can do it. She's an elected official, so she can advocate. If you want to talk with her about it, I know that it's very important to our budget. So if anyone can help us, please call me also. We could use a few $100 just to help from each neighborhood so that we can get these things done. Appreciate your time. And again, call me if you need anything.
Can I
Thank
ask
you.
a quick question?
Yes, please.
Just to clarify, so this question will be on the November election.
Yes.
Just yes or no, do you want to renew?
Yes, it's just to renew the tax. And it's a tax that we've already had for 10 years. And hopefully we'll be able to renew it for the next 10 years. That $50,000, it's growing in Provo City because our sales tax is increasing. And every time we do that, we get a penny for every dollar, which is not much, but it makes a huge difference.
This includes hotels.
And this includes hotels, all the visitors that come to Provo. Anytime there's a BYU football game and somebody comes in and says, I'd like to go out to dinner, they all participate. But you look at all the students, I'm running up and down that, the trail that they put in, the riverfront trail, and more students are passing me on the trail than my neighbors, so, any visitors come do it. Question?
Your number again?
801-372-6633. Please call me if you have any questions or can give us any help. We'd appreciate it.
And just a reminder, but that tax also funds the arts programs like at the Covey Center. We had a great presentation on parks, but it does extend beyond that. So I just wanted to remind people of that as well. So I'm just going to talk briefly about matching grants and community cleanup discussion. We as a neighborhood have done, I think, a really great job this last year in community cleanup. Board members and members of the community helped cleaned up State Street, the old State Street that goes between Provo and Springville. Oh, that was quite a monumental hot day. Angie, do you remember how many bags of trash we picked up, or Tana? It was like, we just had these massive black trash bags. We sent Rachel a picture. I don't know where it went, but anyway, we cleaned up trash. It was way more trash than some of us thought, a little bit less than I was expecting, but it was a lot of garbage. There was some things we weren't able to pick up because it was just too heavy for us, but we went from Provost Elementary all the way down to 7-Eleven and back on both sides. And I think on the north side, they even went down towards
The side streets.
the side streets. Yeah, they went down. And we met at Provost Elementary. We walked it. Councilmember Whipple came out and loaned us her goat head sticker roller remover thing. That was great for the bikers to be able to get those out of the bike lane. But it was it was fun. And I think we built some great relationships as we were working together. And obviously we had Rock Canyon Days. Slate Canyon Days, sorry. And I wish Christina, would you like to say anything about Slate Canyon Days? Because
We did have both. We had
did
Rock
have both.
Canyon,
That's
we had
true.
Rock
Rock
Canyon and Slate Canyon. So
Yeah.
there were
And-
volunteers in both canyons this spring.
Yeah, both. And then cemetery cleanup, that's something else our neighborhoods have participated in. And all these cleanup and these hours that are donated at these kinds of things allow us to get our matching grants. And so we've been very fortunate to be able to get our matching grants here. This year, our matching grant went to a speed sign on Briar near Wasatch Elementary. That was a big concern. We weren't able, the speed studies didn't justify a second one. And so we pivoted and we took part of the money and donated it to improvements at Slate Canyon Park. And so we're looking forward to another grant year and writing. And so if people have ideas, shade sales at Rock Canyon, that can be on the list. But if anybody else has ideas, or if you have ideas for more community cleanup, because that's really a great way for us to get our volunteer hours. And it helps improve our community and show our pride in Provo. So if anybody has any ideas, comments, questions?
I'll just add, often you're doing things in your neighborhoods and your communities that can go toward these matching grants. If it's something visible, Rachel, give them your definition.
So I have to be able to see it when I drive through your neighborhood. So I can see if you've raked up leaves, if you've helped your neighbor build a fence, if you've done some landscaping, if you've picked up trash, I can see that. I can't see you teach piano lessons or give your neighbor a meal. But so it's any of those things. We like to call it community cleanup. It kind of gives more of an idea as to what will count.
Yeah, so every spring, our probably 25 to 30 men and young men in our neighborhood go around and they pick up garbage out of people's front yards and they do the yard things in the cleanup yards, and I had never known we could report those until I started serving here. So those are all really valuable hours, and I know you're doing those good things in your neighborhoods.
And I know there were people there's that little trailhead that a couple of years ago we were hoping to pave, but we can't do that. We won't get into that. It's my failure. Not really, I just cannot legally do it. But anyway, but McKay's area cleans that trailhead up because it leads up to Y Mountain every spring as well. And so there's lots of little projects your neighbors are probably doing, your neighborhoods are probably doing. We'd love to hear about them, love to be able to use them towards our matching grant. We'll put shade sales. We'll talk that when John gets back on the bid on that. I'm thinking last time we asked about those, it were like $30,000.
Yeah, they're tens of thousands of dollars. They're not.
The difference whether a park is used or not used.
Yeah, no, I'm not arguing
Yeah,
that. I'm
yeah.
just saying
So
they're a lot, but maybe we can be part of a funding source for something.
Do you want to explain how they would log the hours and report them?
Yeah, we
If
can
you're
do
doing a
that.
service project
So-
that would qualify?
Yeah, or you can if you want.
I don't want to say anything wrong.
Okay, so basically we just need names, contact, like a description of the project and everybody to sign in and their time, their start time, their end time, kind of thing on a roster or a list. And you just submit that to the
To
board.
us or to?
Or to Rachel, you could submit it to Rachel, but it'd probably be better if it came to your board member from your community, your neighborhood. And then we can add those hours. And we've been very grateful because the city did raise the dollar amount our hours equate out to last year. And so that's helped us a great deal. But there's cemetery cleanup coming up on right after Labor Day. I think what day is it? I know they do one after Veterans Day and they do one after Memorial Day. They have another one in the fall, I thought. Is it, maybe I'm wrong, but you can also check the cemetery website and you can participate in that. But if you, like you said, Mitzi, if they're doing anything in the neighborhood, you can just log those hours, submit them to your board member and they can bring them and we can put that into the grant. Because we do have to match whatever dollars we get in the grant with hours that we put into our district. And so, but I do want to thank those that have participated this last year, both board members and community members, because it really does make a difference in both safety for our children in neighborhoods and around schools and just improving the neighborhoods and making it a better place for all of us to live. So I'm going to turn the remainder of the time over to Rachel for community updates.
Yes, so our, your neighborhood District 2 Executive Board, they had a lot of questions as they're representing your concerns. So I reached out to city staff. One of the questions was what's going on with the dog park master plan. So Parks did present to the city council during their July 8th work meeting. They did extensive public engagement, 2 open houses and a survey. They found some possible locations for dog parks. So I'm going to go through each of these really fast. And then the council asked Parks to come back. So Parks is actually going to come back, do another presentation to the council in a couple of weeks. And so we'll get more information on that. But there is a consensus on the importance of expanding Provo's off-leash dog parks. So just so that you know, the survey, those red dots are people in Provo taking the survey. So it was really good spread out amount of people. It wasn't just all in one area. And these slides will be available if you get the newsletter and also online. And so they proposed a few areas for dog parks. So you can kind of see these circles of the various areas. And so you can see that it's throughout the city, these ideas. So just kind of go through them. There, the recreation for adult handicap on 820 North. They had mentioned using some of that property. That's one where would be very easy to do. That one would be a quick one to do. They also mentioned one in the Bicentennial Park, adding on to the existing dog park area. And so it's talking about 3 sections on that, so they can kind of be rotated. So it wouldn't be, the grass wouldn't all be destroyed because you could rotate it. And then the next one is in the Northwest, the Delta Dog Park. So kind of more of a outdoorsy by the river area. And then we have the Northeast Rock Canyon Dog Park, another one that's kind of a natural area for dogs. And then Southwest is, and this is, those were all kind of the small, correct me if I'm wrong, the small dog parks, or going with a big dog park. So this is the, like a regional dog park concept where it's like 14, I think that says 14 total fenced acres. So really large with areas for small dogs, for big dogs, and with parking and a restroom. So these are kind of the ideas. And again, this is the idea phase. They're going to go back to the city council, on these. So just kind of some various ideas, but nothing's in the works yet. This is still in the idea phase. And in a couple of weeks, they'll be going back to the council in a work meeting and making some decisions whether we want to go with small parks or one big park, or how they want to phase it, which ones they want to do. So nothing's been decided yet. These are just the ideas that have come out. And then another question we had, of course, Wasatch Elementary School retaining wall. Provo School, the school board, they have their big truth and taxation meeting tonight, so they weren't able to make it. But they did send this statement saying that they're waiting to get a report back from their independent engineer who's been assessing the situation. Then they'll be able to determine the best course of action. They're anxious to get the wall back up, but they need to make sure it's done right. They do want you to know the school is stable and students are safe in the building. And they have, if you have any questions, Meg Van Wagenen and Jennifer Partridge are your representatives for District 2, and their emails are there. And then also we've had questions about safe routes to school. We always get questions about safe routes to school. I've realized the best thing to do is to contact your community council. If you go on your school website and in the search bar, just type in community council, it'll bring up the residents that are on that council. They're the ones who work the most on these safe routes. They do work with the city and students and parents, but they're the ones who really have the info. So I would say if you have questions about safe routes, check again, Meg and Jennifer on the school board, or check your website for the school community council, or contact your school principal. And shout out to Neighborhood District 2. Their board recently donated funds to the Wasatch Elementary Pause Board to purchase treats. They're going to have little stations with treats to encourage the children to go to the correct safe route to school. So we appreciate, thank you, District 2. The school really appreciates that. We've had questions about Buckley Draw. That's the 110 home development in Provo South. This information comes from Planning Supervisor Aaron Ardmore, who was here earlier. The developer is Lennar Homes. There were some questions about the developer. Lennar Homes must follow the plans tied to the development agreement as shown in the public hearings. They cannot build something different. There was a development agreement. They have to follow that development agreement. They are working with staff to make sure that they follow those plans. And Lennar Homes has approval to start grading the site. Just today, I received some complaints about a lot of dust being kicked up there as they're grading the site at Buckley Draw. there should be a big sign that says SWPPP. That's their SWIP plan. They have to follow certain rules when building. There is a phone number on that sign you can call if you have complaints. I talked to the engineer over the SWIP plans. He says the best thing to do is to call that number or call 311 or submit it online if there's way too much dust. They're supposed to be watering it down so it doesn't kick up so much in the neighborhood. Our next question that we had, Splash Summit. So this was, I talked to Development Services Director Bill Pepperoni. He had a meeting with Splash Summit on August 7th, and they expressed their disappointment in the mayor's announcement. And of course, the mayor's announcement, if you saw that, she published that on July 7th, where she said Slate Canyon is not for sale. The proposal to buy this land is fully and completely declined. No sale can happen without my approval, so this puts an end to it. Yay, Mayor. And someone had asked about them purchasing the state hospital land. Bill Pepperoni says he has not heard anything recent on this. He doesn't have any recent information. I don't know if Mayor, if you have heard anything.
Yeah, so it's the state hospital, so the state owns the land, so it is out of our jurisdiction, and I just said, good luck. If that's what you want to do, go for it.
The last I talked to one of our legislatures, he said they've been trying and the legislature has no appetite for trying to move it.
Okay, good to know. Thank you so much.
It would
Yeah,
be
I
way
also heard that
expensive.
vote was pretty close at the state level.
Yeah, I didn't know what the vote was, but it keeps coming around and they keep voting it down because there isn't another good property somewhere else to move it to. And they'd have to rebuild all those buildings. So yeah, the land's worth a lot, but you also have a lot of money in the buildings. I think when they look at the cost benefit analysis of that, they say it's just not worth it. And there's also a lot of value in having those patients near the mountains and near the nature. It's very good for their mental health.
That's great.
The
Fantastic.
project could be mimicked after the prison, right?
Yeah.
If the state's serious about it, then get some land and build a new one, and then there's.
I really don't think there's an appetite for it, but I mean, stay tuned, be vigilant, but for right now, there's not an appetite.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Questions on the blight properties on 9th East. There's the one at about 850 North 900 East. I think that's supposed to be the brickyard. That's the one that's just an empty field. So the project plan was approved in September 2022. It's been over 12 months since the last point of progress was made, so now it's expired. Code enforcement is keeping an eye on the property. They continue to address violation concerns with the owner. I did ask about the fence. So the property owners are not required to have a fence, but they are required to keep the weeds down and it has to be free of junk. But if you have questions or concerns, that's the planning supervisors and the zoning administrators' contact information.
Isn't that on the planning commission agenda coming up quickly to have that zoning issue addressed?
I don't believe so. We can
I-
double check.
I don't think it's tomorrow's. So I'll have to double check on that. I haven't heard anything. This is what, and certainly Aaron Ardmore would have mentioned that if it was going to planning commission. And then, of course, everyone's favorite. So 910 North, 900 East, another sale fell through, so it's back on the market. They keep trying to sell it. The city has encouraged BYU to purchase it, but the seller's price is unrealistic. BYU is saying no. Code enforcement is keeping an eye on it. They continue to address violation concerns with the owner. The city is moving forward with legal action to get permission to demolish the building. So there's a bunch of steps they have to go through.
So are you saying that the city would then pay for the demolishing?
So we put a lien on the property, right? And we tried to do this already once, but the judge turned us down because the judge believes in private property rights and felt like that was a violation. So now that an owner's got it now that we didn't take to court, we started that process. We've fined them, we've already fined them to the max, so now we're starting again. It'll cost about $1 million to drop this building. And so what we were hoping to do is get the win now, the second time through, and go ahead and take it down ourselves, put $1 million lien on the property. Another component that we've recently put on that Rachel, she may have said this already, is that we have now put on the property a note that says this is not a remodel. This is a tear down. Previous buyers, it's traded hands a lot, I'm sure you're aware of, because they've all been told, oh, it's just a remodel. Buy it from us because you can just go in and fix it up. It's been misleading and it's caused a lot of problems. And so now we have applied a note to this property saying the council voted to absolutely not allow it to be a rebuild, but to be a tear down and start from the beginning. So we now have the note attached and we're trying to get the permit to be able to go ahead and take it down and put the $1 million lien on the property.
How much are they asking?
A lot. It's significant. It is, I'm trying to remember what it was per square foot. We compared it like to the new temple being built and it was almost more than that. So look at that and then it's unrealistic. It's.
The original owners were in a lawsuit for not paying their investors back. And instead of paying out their dividends, they were rolling it into other properties. And so they had to sell it in order to, they couldn't get funding for it because they were in this lawsuit. And so they had to sell it at a higher than probably market value to try and themselves out. So popped out. So sorry, I just know who the developers. So it's just kind of the price is prohibitive at this point.
And then the last one, we had a question about Bicentennial Park. They were wondering why funding is going towards street infrastructure and not finishing Bicentennial Park. So this was a statement from Parks Director Doug Robbins, who was here earlier. Again, park projects rely on different, more limited and highly competitive funding sources. So kind of as he explained tonight, like his funding sources for parks are very different from the funding sources for streets.
Doesn't the Buckley Draw development?
And that's what I had heard. So I'm wondering if that is part of it. He didn't mention that. He just said that the expansion of Bicentennial Park remains a priority. And the design and development is anticipated within the next 5 years. They're currently in a funding accumulation phase and will continue to actively pursue grants and community partnerships to help bring this project to completion. So that might be part of that Buckley Draw, but he didn't specifically say
That was
that.
explicitly communicated as part of the process.
Oh, was it? Fantastic.
In our meeting, actually.
I know it was in our meeting, but he didn't mention it in his statement, so I didn't know if things had changed, so. Thanks for guys saying, and I think that's all I have for me.
You sat.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Rachel.
I don't know if this is appropriate, but I saw that parking on Slate Canyon came up in a work meeting and was presented to the city council. And I wondered here at the district if you could restate the findings from the city study on parking Slate Canyon and the decision of the city council. I believe that, go ahead.
Yeah, so I can answer that if you would like. Again, Malia in the council office. So we had zoning and traffic burn here, traffic engineer, and then also Sandy in parking. She's parking manager for the city as well. They all did 12-month updates based on the parking. Sandy reported that the reported violations that they had before, those same types of violations have gone down almost to none since instituting the ban. Vern did a speed study, but based on different technologies, the first time the speed study done, he wasn't able to compare apples to apples, so it's more like comparing apples to oranges, but he did commit to do future speed studies and update kind of in the next 12 months to kind of see how the speeding is going there. He said there was like a slight increase, but not anything significant, and it was like 1 mile per hour kind of increase. He did say though, people were still, the average speed was still over the speed limit, so it's not that, so that still is bad. And then, code enforcement, when the parking regulation was instituted that fall, so it was instituted last June, so then November last year, code enforcement did a kind of inventory of all the houses that front Slate Canyon, for which ones were rental and owner occupied, and they were able to enforce on a couple properties for over occupied rentals. And then there was 3 of those, they were able to get it back down to normal occupation levels. And then we did just ask a follow-up question about the townhomes and condos kind of above Slate Canyon, just on kind of the rental occupancy of those, because people have mentioned that people park, someone who used to live up there, park down on the street rather than up in the townhomes, because those townhomes already have parking restrictions up there. So that is something that we are following up on to get more info on. Based on all of that, the city council did briefly discuss looking into a permit program and citizens kind of request to look into that, but parking said if you want to change anything, great, but it's working as it is now, so it's up to the council. And then Vern said he would keep providing data, and the council eventually ended to not change anything and let the regulation go, but to keep getting those data updates from code enforcement and traffic engineer and Sandy to kind of see if there's anything else they want to change in the future.
This is Catrice. I would say one significant thing was that complaints went down significantly. Because they tracked complaints before the no parking and after the no parking, and complaints went down significantly. Huge benefit for snow removal, for the postman, for garbage pickup. They are loving it. And that is making those services a lot easier to provide and done more efficiently. So those were just 2 other things that I thought were important when we heard it.
Thank you, everybody. I just wanted that on the record for the residents, especially in the online listening, the follow-up. All that excitement.
We can open up for public comment, leading off of that. And so if you have any comments, just say your name and your neighborhood and go from there.
Andrew Maxfield in Foothills. I just want to maybe state the obvious. I think the wrap tax is a no-brainer for me. I hope everybody sees the huge benefit in that, and that we spread the word to our neighbors to sustain that. I see it especially when I go to parks, because it tends towards being the recreation parks tax. But when I take my kids to the parks, I see a place that we're investing in that I want my kids to grow up in. Really great. I hope that our investment in the arts becomes greater and more strategic, because there are not just as an artist, but I see big spillover benefit to investing in the arts, public art, Covey Center, all sorts of things. But we're making a place that we want to live in, and our kids want to live in too. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna do a plug for our Neighborhood District 2 website. Because I forgot one other item that people had questions about, and I wanted to let you know where to find it. So if you go on provo.gov and you put in the search bar Neighborhood District 2, we have your meeting information, we have upcoming events, but this public hearing alerts will let you know any public hearings that are happening about your community. So it lets you know what's going to the planning commission, what's going to the city council, what's going to a neighborhood meeting. It's all here. I'll even write down like if it's been approved or not. So if you're wondering like this item we heard tonight, you can go to this website and I'll write down. As soon as it's scheduled to planning commission, I'll put it on there. Also, public works alerts. People had questions about the UTA 9th East UVX station. I do reach out to UTA once a month and get an update and put that on here. I also reach out to Public Works and I get their updates. I put in lane closures, all of that. That affects your neighborhood, what sidewalks are being done. And then down here, if you want to know, I also, in these little accordions, you can open them up and find traffic studies, past development decisions, past meetings. I keep your number tallies of your cleanups and matching grants, who your enforcement code officer is, and all of that. So it's all there on that page that you can find.
Want to just shout out, thank you to Provo City for the improvements on sidewalks on 300 South, 12th East, 1060 East, and 230 South, as well as repaving those roads. We had sidewalks that had crumbled to the point where you couldn't tell the road from the sidewalk, and we had some that were like this. So and we got ADA ramps, which is really nice for our elderly neighbors who walk those blocks. So really want to thank the city for taking care of those smaller neighborhoods too. So.
Any other public comments?
Heck, new. I wasn't in District 2 until just recently. I'm in Rock Canyon, but ours was a bunch of my neighbors, the road going up. They're building the temple right now. So North Temple Road, because I know it's just fencing right now, but it seems like the entrances are going way out. So our roads are going to be smaller. And so they were just wondering about that. So.
If I remember looking at the plans, I think there was some road narrowing just right around the temple. Is that what you mean? I think that in the original plans, there was plans to narrow the road and to even put in like the parking, like diagonal.
Going yeah.
Parking.
But yeah.
But because
if it's a bigger temple, we're gonna have more traffic than we did before.
Yeah. So yeah.
Who owns that road? Who owns North Temple Drive?
City.
The city.
Yeah.
So did the city sell some of it to?
I asked Aaron when he's here, he said, no, Mayor, we have not sold any road to them. That's just construction fencing that will come down. But now Kathy's got me worried, so I'm gonna drive home there.
Yeah, no, look at the entrance they've built. It's way out in the road and the parallel parking lanes are there. Like there's no way the road will be as wide.
Yeah, because I had thought it was the parallel parking was what was narrowing the road. I didn't think the actual road was diagonal.
There's cement
brought out
entrances now
all the way for the entrance into, farther than the parallel parking. So I'm just saying, we're not gonna be able to have that middle lane, where, somebody's trying, you can go around. Anyway, I don't know.
I'll double check on that. I'll double check.
They gave us a square footage and it's not much bigger, weirdly.
I have one question as well. Is there any word on Rocky Mountain Power fixing Bonneville Shoreline Trail after they've done the new fire mitigation on the power bills? Because it's trashed.
It is. They did. And I'm on the shoreline, we're on the shoreline. Yeah, they came through it. Provo City Power would never have done that approach. But they have right of way, and boy, did they rip that thing up. So we're gonna reach out to them and see what they're gonna come in to mitigate it. I know right up behind Oak Hills. So this is 1450, 1500, 1550 top road above right up past the church. It's just brutal right there. So we'll look into it and see if we have any powers to make them come in and do some mitigation of some sort, because it looks horrible.
Is there any other public comments?
My name is Jeff Whitlock, live in Provo South. I say this somewhat in jest, but I think she left, but I really liked her advocacy for Slate Canyon and getting the park and the CIPs as the RAP tax is coming up. It's a good thing for everyone in District 2 just to say, we're gonna vote for this. It's no brainer, but we want to see some of that money come to District 2, south end of the district in Slate Canyons.
Better?
So is there anything online, Rachel?
No.
That's the case, the meeting, our next one will be Wednesday, October 15th.
Thank you.